Welcome to the Chrissiecast live from the compound. Now open up a book by Liane Moriarty and you can be guaranteed some gripping psychological drama, juicy characters and gasp-worthy twists. I personally love her work because even though we think our lives are all so mundane, she shows us there's magic in it if you look hard enough. She's with me today to talk about her new book, Here One Moment, and loads of other bits and bobs as well. Please welcome New York Times best-selling author and stationery enthusiast, Liane Moriarty. Hi, Liane.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
You are a stationery enthusiast.
I do like stationery, and I wonder if it came from my love Survivor. That's my reality TV of choice.
Right. I also am a stationery enthusiast.
Are you?
And
Yes.
I've passed it on to my daughter, whose favourite thing is a trip to Officeworks.
Yes.
And I brought you in something. This is a little lined book. It just feels really
I
great
love
in the
those.
hand.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much.
and
That
it's
is
got
the perfect gift for me. I love it.
And it's got some nonsense on the front.
Yep,
It's
yep.
so great.
Yep.
But this is the prize. So I recently treated myself to a trip to Europe for the first time because I turned 50. And I stayed in this hotel. And as I was signing the check, I mean, the bill at the end,
Yeah.
I used the best pen I've ever used, and I'm going to give you one, Liane, and I want you to.
Chrissie,
I'm giving you a
thank
piece
you.
of
This
paper.
is, oh my goodness.
I'm giving you a piece of paper because I want you to try it immediately. It's just a pen. It's not like a fountain. It's nothing.
No, but it has.
But there's something about the
Thank you
flow.
special about it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't it lovely?
Yes, it is.
And I
It's
snatched
lovely.
6 of them as I
Did
left.
you?
And
It's gorgeous too.
Now, I have this theory, Liane, that I want to float with you. I feel like, we are born and then from that moment we sort of tend to get further and further away. Life comes at us and we change ourselves to go with life. And I found a photograph of myself when I was about 5 or 6 and I was just looking at her going, what did you like to do? And I've realised that I wasn't doing any of what she liked to do. And I want to ask you, I'm holding up some photographs. So how old are you here?
I think I'm 5. I think that's from my I look very much like my son.
Yeah?
Actually, so it's funny to see it.
Now, what did this little girl like to do?
Let me think. I was only just learning how to read, and I do remember I was excited to learn to read, but I always thought it was strange that they gave out those little books. Little readers.
Yeah.
And for some reason, and I'm not sure what this says about me, I started trying to read the little. It was probably the copyright, in tiny words, really, and of course it was really big words, and nobody else bothered with that. And I was thinking, how can I can't possibly read that. And I always think of that why didn't you just look at the big word, the big print?
Yeah.
It was like I wanted to make life as hard as possible for myself.
It's like you're trying to find the truth in it, in Digger plays with the ball.
Yeah.
But what does that
What
really...
does that-
What are Digger's motivations? You grew up in a creative family. And I was thrilled to find out that your career started in the advertising industry, because mine did too. And your dad was also in the advertising industry.
No.
Oh,
no.
God. So much wrong info.
No, Dad was a surveyor. Yeah, so his dream was to be a pilot. So he jumped off, I think it was the shed out the back with an umbrella. He was desperate to learn how to fly.
I bet you he said, Geronimo.
Yeah, probably. And so he loved Biggles and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And he did eventually, he achieved his dream and learned how to fly and built up a very successful aerial surveying and mapping business.
Wow.
Yeah.
How interesting that it was aerial.
Yeah. So he really believed that there was nothing better. What did he say? To find something you love to do and then get some bastard to pay you to do it.
I think the original phrase is what? Find something you love and you won't work a day in your life or something.
That's right, yeah.
You started in advertising as a copywriter. Did it annoy you whenever you said what you did for a living that people thought it had something to do with copyright law?
Yeah, no, I think they thought, I can clearly remember a man saying, "Oh, you're a secretary, aren't you?" He thought it was just something that I didn't get so much copyright law, but you're copying something. You're just copying other people's work.
Right. For clarity, in case you're listening and you don't know what that is, Liane and I used to write ads.
That's right.
Concepts as well.
Yes, coming up with ideas.
Which I think, I think people don't really, they think it's just the actual words.
Yes.
What were some of the big accounts that you worked on?
No, but I don't know that I really ended up with any particularly famous accounts. I did a lot of work for OneTel. You know how well that company ended up doing? Yes, I do. I bought shares in it too.
Oh, no.
And I kept them as it went all the way down.
Oh, I'm no good at shares or stocks. I don't understand it.
No, the first time I bought shares actually was just before the 87 stock market crash. And I remember driving to work and they were talking about the stock market's crash. As far as I knew, they had never talked about the stock market on the radio before. And it just seemed to happen literally after I just bought shares. Yes,
they knew. Or it might be one of those things, you know, if you buy a blue car, you never see blue car.
Yes.
And then as soon as you buy one,
that's right.
You see it all the time.
Exactly.
Did you, by chance, love the TV show Bewitched when you were growing up?
I did love Bewitched, yeah.
That was the first time I ever saw somebody in the advertising industry. Remember Darren?
Yes.
He was a copywriter.
Yeah.
He had that awful boss, Larry Tate.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And that was really the first time I ever saw that as a job, and I was like, I want what Darren's
and then you wanted to get in. Well, see, I didn't actually, I didn't dream of going to advertising. I wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I look back, I often think, why did you not do that? I mean, I know why. Somebody said, I missed out on some deadline, and somebody said, why don't you just do advertising for a year? And then I quite liked it. But I often think I should have done journalism. I would have had more material, you know, to call back upon now as a writer. So,
yeah, but you were in advertising in the 80s. There would have been like crazy long lunches and all sorts of amazing stuff.
No, I didn't get. I can remember people doing lines of cocaine, a little bit of that, but really I also did a lot of just writing direct mail. I didn't have much of the glamorous.
Yeah, I did direct mail too.
Yeah,
in fact, my first ad was for a Maya sale.
Okay.
And I remember taking it very, very seriously. And I went to my creative director and I said, listen, you know, last time this ran, it said on sale now. And I feel like sale is the important part of this. And I think we should change it to sale on now.
That's that.
Changing lives, Liane. Anyway, I got my way and I snipped it out and popped it in my scrapbook.
I think you were right. I think that's much better.
Get them before they completely lose interest in the rest of the ad.
My dad he loved something I did that was with a nail, a fingernail pointing to a thing of nail polish, and it was the direction to perfection. And he kept saying it to me all the time, the direction to perfection.
I love it so much. Now, I think that, you know, someone like you working in such a creative and personal career like novel writing, it's a kind of superpower. And I don't think there are too many professions that require that sort of sustained creativity. And that is hard, I think, for somebody to maintain. And I think anybody that works in an area like you do sort of needs what I call a mental laxative. Because you do get blocked and there's nothing that your mind is blank. Do you have any sort of, I guess, fail-safe methods that you use when your creativity dries up?
There's all sorts of things I can try. So first of all, it's just write for a certain amount of time, put the timer on, and you mustn't think, is this any good? You just write anything, even if it's rubbish.
What's an example of that? Like, if I was to do that now, could I just write?
Well, you could just write
the sky is blue.
Yeah, the dog crossed the road, or what happened to the dog, and just see what comes out.
Right.
And then, because your whole thing I'm always trying to do is lose my sense of self the way I did when I was a little girl and I liked to write stories. I would just sit down and write a story without even thinking about it. I just think I like to ride my bike, so I'll ride my bike. I like to write stories, so I'll write a story. And I wish I could do that the way I once did, just for the pure joy of it. So there's that, just write anything. There's a particular spin class that I do that I do at YouTube, so I know exactly what's going to happen in the class. I know she's going to say, so Michelle, do you know how to count me in, don't you? And then Michelle says yes, but Michelle gets it a little bit wrong, so I'm always watching. I feel so bad for her because I think, oh no, Michelle, you're doing it wrong. You've got to say it out loud.
And why do you like that kind of predictability when you're...
I think because I just go into a sort of meditative state, so it's sort of like an active meditation that and it's hard, but it's not so hard that I can't if it was so hard that I was but it gets the blood going, and I mustn't think oh, you're going to come up with ideas now. I just somehow go, and then sure enough, by the third song, so it's just
something comes.
Thinking, yeah.
For me, it's walking.
Yeah, I'm walking. Well, it used to be walking for me, but then I got into podcasts, and that ruined it. And now I feel like I can't go for a walk without a podcast.
I agree. I desperately try not to have anything in my ears.
Yeah. But I feel like a podcast, you sort of float through. You don't even notice.
Yes.
If I walk the dog's taking me the podcast in my ears, and I'm not aware of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Big Little Lies, hugely successful. You ended up going to the Emmys. Was that weird?
Yes, very, very weird in so many ways. Just seeing all those faces, all those famous faces, and going up on stage, and going. It was extra strange that you then sort of got funneled out the back into a sort of car park, and I'm trying to think of, it was a strange area.
Backstages and green rooms are always so
incongruous with what's going on in the front. Yes,
exactly, with all the glittery stuff. And there was, I think it was Jane Fonda was there, and somebody, now I can't even remember who it was, but there she is in the car park.
How odd. Yeah. Having a ciggy. Maybe.
I don't
having
remember.
A dart.
Yeah.
Big Little Lies, it's all about, the dynamics of school mums, I guess.
Yes.
And I've got a theory, another theory.
Yeah.
About school mums. And I started, so I've got a 15-year-old. So that was sort of my foray into schools.
Yeah.
And I realised very quickly I did not like being at the school. And I just, eventually, it made me so uncomfortable that I had a conversation with my then probably 6 or 7-year-old. I said, I'm not going to be the sort of mum that gas bags at the school gate. I feel really cautious.
Yes.
And I think that your school is your community, and I'm not going to have anything to do with it. Is that okay? How did you find your experiences at school?
Mostly lovely, really. I think I was really lucky with the school community that I went into. I did resist it a lot because I had my children quite late. So I was surprised that people were ready to be so friendly, and I was thinking, I was one of those people thinking, I don't need any more friends. Don't we all have our friends?
Yeah.
It's just school.
Barely got time for the ones I have.
Which is a horrible thing to think. And actually, I remember one who's a really good friend now saying to me, I'm worth it.
Wow, she had to sell herself.
Yeah, she was sort of saying. And so I did. I guess I would feel like I was a little bit standoffish, and probably I'm not an especially extroverted person. So I wasn't so much part of the school community, but I'm sure you found the same. That you have to, you make friends with the parents of the kids for having the kids over. That happens naturally. So that would have happened.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit tricky in the beginning if you're not that sort of person who immediately throws yourself into the social
I just
life.
found it might have just been the schools that I've encountered, but I just felt like I was in conversations and my internal dialogue was, I don't care if there's too much lettuce in the salad roll at the tuck shop, and do you know what I mean? I don't care that icy poles are going up to $1.50. I don't care.
But you didn't find your people.
No.
Yeah, so your people were there.
I already had my people.
Yeah. That's the thing, like me. But there was still. That's the thing. There were more people there. I bet. If you.
I'm sure there was. I gave up pretty quick. Back to your family. You've got. I hope this is right. 4 sisters and a brother.
That's right, yes.
And I've got 2 sisters. I'm one of 3 girls. And I thought an interesting kind of through line whenever they are discussed, because 2 of your sisters also write.
Authors, yeah.
Were words like sibling rivalry, or Liane started to write because of her competitive nature. And I read that and I thought, I don't know about that. I'm gonna ask her. Does that exist in your family?
A little bit. I mean, it's definitely true that it was Jackie, so she was published first. And when we were little, that's when Dad used to commission us to write stories for him. So he'd pay $1 for an exercise book filled with words. So he gave us our first publishing deals.
What a great idea.
I know. Although I've tried it with my children, I do think today's children are not quite as motivated by money.
I've got that written down because books are absolutely so important to me.
Yes.
I think reading is so beneficial to everybody. And my daughter will not read a page.
I know, it's very hard.
How do
I guess you've got to just keep putting books in front of her. Have you tried audiobooks?
I feel like that's not the same. I feel like you've got to take it in through your eyes.
I don't know, because a lot of my readers are listening now. And I know I'm not an audiobook listener myself, but it might still get her into a story.
That's true. I'm going to try that.
I don't know why I'm saying I haven't tried it myself with my kids. I've got an
audiobook question coming up later when we talk about your new book. Back to sibling rivalry.
So he would... so he gave us our first publishing deals, and then as we grew up, so we both said we want to be writers, and then I wrote less and less as I got older, so I ended up with that career in advertising. And so when she got published first, I honestly was really happy for her because I love her dearly, but I also will admit that I was filled with envy. I was so envious that she'd done it first, and so angry with myself because I hadn't even given it a shot. So you could call that sibling rivalry because I was really envious, and it was because of her that I did it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 sisters and 1 brother.
Yes.
I think that... Are you familiar with the term top tier? You know, like if you're ranking biscuits or ranking chocolates, top tier is like the best.
The best, yeah.
I think top tier men are those that have grown up in a house exclusively
with women
of girls. Yeah. So when I read that there's 4 girls and 1 boy, I thought
5 girls and 1 boy.
5 girls and 1 boy,
including me. Yes.
What is he like? And do you agree that he is excellent?
I think you're right that it's wonderful to grow up with sisters. But he was funny because he'd always say, how would it work? We'd be asking him more questions, and he'd answer a couple and then say, no more questions.
Even that is a really good skill to have.
Yes, yeah.
Because women talk a lot.
Yes, yeah.
We really do. I've noticed that with my daughter too. Although my middle son, just last night, I heard my daughter say to him, Mum, can you tell Kit to be quiet? He just doesn't shut up.
Really?
And he does. He's like the narrator of our life. Everything's got to go through him.
That's cute.
Did you, as a family, sort of growing up in the 70s and 80s where there was nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do, did you have made-up games? I'll give you an example. Me and my sisters have made up this game called Froobies, F-R-O-O-B-I-E-S, where my sisters, I'm a fair bit younger than them, they would lay on their backs with their legs in the air and I would launch onto their feet. That's called a Froobie. Okay. Sunday afternoon, just before the Campbell's Big Red was served, we would have a round of Froobies.
Yeah.
Have you got anything like that?
I'm trying to think. I do remember there was one game that involved bubble wrap and we created a whole world. And in my mind, it was quite magical with a particular little toy and all the different toys. I don't remember. It didn't have a name or anything. I know. It is amazing, a child's imagination, though, that that it feels like that was a huge world in my mind with just bubble wrap.
Yes. And I bet you if you saw a photo of it now, it would just be a 20 centimetre square.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing happens when I pick up books that I loved as a child. I think that in my mind, had this whole world, and then you read, and I think it must have been written so amazingly. But I think, in fact, it's just that a child's imagination is so rich. So it's very simple sentences, and that created something in my mind that I would need more sentences now to create that world.
Do you think a wonderful and rich imagination is something we're all born with? Or do you think that you were born with blue eyes and an incredible imagination or the ability to flex it, access it?
I don't know. I think everybody's got an imagination, but I think every reader, it's their imagination that's making the book work. So I always say to readers, there's something really special about it. It's my imagination and your imagination sort of working together, which is why every single reader has a different experience of reading the book, because I'm saying something and they're taking their own life experiences, so they're seeing it slightly differently.
And that would be why everybody says when they see a movie adaptation of a book that they've read, they always say the book is better
because they had their
in their mind. It's so much richer. That's what it is. I think.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
because I can remember my son saying once, reading a book, it's just like a movie playing in your head, isn't it? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So
his movie is different to my movie, is different to your movie.
Yes.
That's why I need my daughter to read.
To have the little movie playing in her head. But having said that, not everybody's a reader, and I think that's okay. I
don't think it's okay. I'm really staunch on it. I think everybody should walk somewhere every day, 5 minutes even.
Yes.
And I think everybody should read something every day. 1 page. That's what I say to my daughter. Just do 1 page.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I just think of people like, well, I don't know, especially a lot of men. I think of my grandfather who never read, but I don't...
He might not have been able to. My grandmother had to teach herself to read, when she was 20.
Yeah, no, he could read. He could read. I know, that's true. But I don't know that... And my grandma loved to read, but I don't know that I don't like the idea of it somehow makes you morally superior if you're a reader.
No, I wouldn't suggest that, but I really think it's good for you if you read something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why it's funny because I've said that before, and somebody said to me, "It's really strange that you're saying that." And you
don't read anything, especially don't read my book.
And I do want my children to read. Sorry.
Speaking of your amazing imagination and how it works so beautifully with the imagination of your readers, your TV adaptations have been extraordinary, and movie adaptations have been extraordinarily successful. They've been so successful that every time I now read one of your stories, I cast it in my head.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. After you saw Big Little Lies was your first one that came to the screen? After you saw that with, Reese and Nicole and all of that, was it hard to write without casting your characters in your head?
No, I've honestly never cast as I write, except for when I was writing that sort of treatment for season 2 of Big Little Lies, so that wasn't a novel, that wasn't to be published, and that's when I was casting Meryl Streep for the role of Mary Louise, which is why I called her Mary Louise, because that's Meryl's real name. So that was for my own fun. But when I'm writing a novel, I see my own version, which is I wouldn't want to see an actress or an actor in my head, because then it would no longer belong to me. That's what I love about, as I'm writing the book, it's all mine.
Yeah. Your characters are so well developed, and there's so many of them.
I know, probably too many. I know.
No, not too many, but I've got a little set of directions when I start one of your books. I actually start it with a notebook next to me or a piece of paper.
Oh, and you write them.
And when I'm introduced to a new character, I'll write that down with a little trigger for myself, so that when I'm reading and I go, shit, who was that again? I could go back to my notes and find it in 2 seconds instead of flicking back through the...
See, I feel like that's because that's my job to help you out with that.
No, I'm just so bad with following stuff. My brain isn't wired like that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Because I try... because I'm aware that I have a lot of characters, and every single time I write a book, I think this time I will not have so many. So I try to give them different name, never have 2 characters with the same initial, and to try and say something as I go into each scene that reminds you of who the person was.
For somebody normal, that would really work very well.
No, it's not true.
How do you name your characters? Is it like naming a baby? Do you try lots of different ones on?
Yeah, I try. If you try something, then it often sticks. So, and if therefore I've got too many with the same initial, I'm annoyed with myself because I don't want to change the name because it feels like that is their name.
Yeah.
So I'm doing things like looking up, depending on the age of the character, I might look up names of people born in the year that they were born.
Right.
So it makes sense. What else do I do? It just has to feel right. And sometimes names... I often look around at the bookshelves, so I'm looking at just picking a name at random for the author, or with something I've read. And sometimes I realise a name sounds right, and then I realise, oh no, that's why it sounds right, because it's somebody I know or somebody I've read. So it's tricky.
Speaking of fun, has there been, in every job and every life really, there are memorable moments where you're flooded with gratitude and the rest of the time is just normal.
Yeah.
Can you remember the first or the most memorable time where you had that sort of the breathless feeling of joy because of what you did?
Oh, there's lots. Even just last night I was doing the first event to launch my new book, and just the things that people say to you, and what my books have meant to them. That's and as I get older and more emotional, then I just feel like I'm going to be sobbing the whole time.
I know, because you would be quite insular too,
yes.
like me. When I'm in the studio, I don't see anybody that's listening to me, and you don't see anybody consuming your stuff, your creativity. So when you do see it, it's amazing. Meaningful.
It's also the other thing that gives me goosebumps is just seeing people out in the world reading my my books. So
I've got full body goosebumps.
So that always feels incredible.
Do you remember the first time you saw that?
Yes, it was on a Sydney ferry, and the woman sitting next to me literally pulled out a copy of Three Wishes. So that was, and I kept looking over at her. I was obviously behaving in a strange manner because she got up and moved.
She thought you were going to roll her for the book, probably, when you got on the ferry.
I was looking at her face as she read and looking down and thinking, oh, that bit's quite funny. Are you laughing?
Wow. Speaking of Three Wishes, I'm going to do a status check for all Liane Moriarty fans. Obviously, Big Little Lies on the screen, Nine Perfect Strangers on the screen, done. Husband's Secret, status check.
Yeah, that was option. The film rights were bought, and there's been talk over the years, but which I believe is what happens with lots of projects. That there's talk. There's at some point there's somebody attached to it, or a director.
Blake Lively, I think.
And Jennifer Aniston was attached to What Alice Forgot for quite a while, but then you don't hear anything. So then you don't know if
it's going to happen or not.
Yeah, or if they've moved on to something else.
Will you be called upon to provide guidance if they are?
I was really only involved as an interested bystander.
Right.
So I've always made it clear that I don't want to write the screenplay. Okay. I think if I tried to get involved, I'd want to be too involved, and it's so many people involved with a film project.
Yeah.
And it's not my area of expertise, so
it's like you've had a baby and they've grown up and you're not going to follow them to work when they're
No. So I just sometimes I just read the articles with interest myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Status check. Truly, madly guilty.
Yeah, that was optioned. I believe though a screenplay was being written, but again, haven't heard anything about that for a while.
Anything else that we need to...
The Last Anniversary was my second novel, and they have finished filming that, and that's my first one that will be filmed on location exactly where I came up with the idea on the Hawkesbury River, so with an all-Australian cast.
Who's in that?
So Teresa Palmer is playing the main role as Sophie, so I'm thrilled with that one. So that's the next one that will come out quite soon.
I feel like your new book, which we are here to talk about, Here One Moment, is a no-brainer. As soon as I started reading it, I'm like, this is coming to my screen very, very soon. I'll do a little synopsis on the book.
Yep.
It talks about fate. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
And would you, if you knew when it was all going to end, would you do anything differently? Which is a question I love. And I wouldn't, because I've already changed it. I sort of had that moment a few years ago where I went, ew, this is all so boring. What if I died tomorrow? I'd be so angry with myself. It seems like you're living your dream.
Yeah, I feel very lucky in that way that I'm, I remember talking to my daughter once and she was saying, what would you do if you could do anything? And I said, well, actually, I'm doing my dream job. And I thought this would be a special moment for her. And she said, oh, that's so cringe, Mum, you're doing it. I'm Liane Moriarty and I'm doing my dream job.
I suppose it is a bit cringe, isn't it?
But it's true.
It's amazing how important work is to making you feel like you're having a good life.
Yeah, but it can come in all sorts of ways, can't it? I think you can have a job where the work itself is not necessarily that fulfilling, but the people around you. So you've got a wonderful group of friends.
Yeah.
And not everybody gets an amazing, fulfilling job. It's just something that pays the bills, and so you can get your fulfillment in other ways from hobbies.
Do it for so long a day.
I know.
I do. I love my job, absolutely, but I also love coming in here and seeing everybody. I get such a thrill.
Yes.
From just a little chat,
just normal interaction,
being around like-minded people. The book takes place on a flight from Hobart to Sydney, and that is 1 hour and 50 minutes. It's a very short flight. Did you take that flight? And if so, what happened on it that made you go to such an interesting place?
So I regularly take that flight because my husband's Tasmanian, so I'm an honorary Tasmanian now. Yes, and I was coming out of Hobart and I was looking around at the other passengers around me, and I didn't have a book with me at the time. So I was just, and I'd had a week's writing, so I was in a very reflective state of mind.
Yeah.
And I was looking around at the other passengers, and the thought came into my head, this cheerful thought that every passenger on this plane is going to one day die.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at each person and thinking, so will you be the one, will you make it to 100 and die peacefully in your sleep, which is what we all hope for.
And someone on the plane is going to be next.
Yes, I know. And who's that? Who is that person? Exactly. And then it sort of, it blew my mind thinking about the fact that one day in the future, so 100 years in the future, that people could look back at the names of the people on this flight and all that data would be available. They could look up, how did this person die, including myself. And that's when I thought, well, what if that was that information was available right now and somebody walked down the aisle literally telling us what lay ahead.
I would want to avoid eye contact, just like I do like in a stand-up show if they're looking for audience participation.
Would you say you wouldn't want to know?
I think I wouldn't want to know. Would you want to know?
I'd only want to know if it was a good prediction. But this is the thing, when I was writing the book, I think originally I thought everybody would have these amazing revelations about how to live their life exactly like the revelation you had when you thought, if I die tomorrow. But then when I got into it and was really imagining putting myself in the characters' heads, the first thing you'd think is, number one, I don't believe you. And in the same way that if you get a terrible diagnosis, the first thing you say is, no, I want a second opinion.
Yeah.
And then you fight it. You'd say, okay, I want to enroll me in a clinical trial. Let me try something new.
Yeah.
People mostly fight all the way they can. So especially if I'm giving out so somebody's going to die in a workplace accident, obviously you're not just going to
keep on going to the same job.
Yeah. So you're going to change your life in some way.
I'm trying to think of what I would change if Cherry told me that I had 6 years.
Yes.
The first thing I would do is stop madly trying to save for when I'm old and infirm.
Yes.
And that
the financial.
That's the only literal thing I would do. I'd keep working.
Yeah, I would keep working. But again, sometimes I think I take it too literally. I'd say, why? What's going to happen in 6 years? What can I do to change it? I want longer.
Why do you want longer?
I don't know. Yeah, and that's something that I always find really interesting when you read blog posts or interviews with people who are often they're living with cancer, so they know that their time is finite, and each time when I read that, I still feel a sense of resistance, saying, no, they must get you better.
Yeah.
But they've got some sort of wisdom that I don't yet have, because you're right, why do I want longer?
I'm not afraid of death. Are you afraid of death?
I only became afraid once I had children. I'm afraid of my children being there without me.
I know, they'll be so sad. That's the only thing I think of too. They'll just be so sad. It's because of something I did.
Yeah, I know.
And we're wired to never make them sad.
Yes, exactly. I can't stand to think of that.
Yeah.
And I think before I had children, I used to sometimes quite enjoy thinking of my own funeral and everybody be so sad.
And what a shame we can't see it. It'd be so good for our egos.
Now you like me, but you don't want to think that about your children. That's unbearable.
Do you have any signs from the universe or little things that you think are just for you that proves that you're on the right path? Mine are corgis.
Really? So if you see one, then it means you're on the right path.
Yep. I saw 2 yesterday and I went, good girl. And then sometimes it's the weirdest thing when I'm in the middle of, not a crisis, because nothing's a crisis, but when I'm in the middle of trying to work something out, if I see a corgi, I go, right, you're
okay.
Yeah. You got anything like that? Some people have feathers or...
No, the only thing, like a lot of people, when we lost Dad, then we started thinking about butterflies. And there was a day on the anniversary of his death when I was walking out to the car and the butterflies came straight on my face and made me sort of laugh and cry at the same time because it seemed so real. But then also there have been other times when, and this would make Dad laugh, where I was walking the dog and there was a little butterfly floating along with us, and I was thinking, oh, there's Dad coming for a walk with us, and then Daisy, my Labrador, went and ate the butterflies. So I don't know. And then I sort of laughed at myself.
Oh, my God, that's so funny.
Sorry, Dad.
Do you want to play a round of What's in the Belly Bag, Liane Moriarty? This is where I give you this has changed my life, by the way.
Really?
I keep everything around my waist.
Okay, yeah.
Everything essential.
Yep.
Hands free, baby.
Yes.
Safe to, pick up dog poo, do whatever I want, all the important stuff. You open it up and then whatever's inside, you tell me what comes to mind. Okay? It's really snug in there. I had to really force it in.
Okay. Do I say what it is?
Yes, you say what is in the bum bag? What is in the belly bag?
What is in the what is in the bum bag?
I call it a belly bag because you wear it on your belly, not your bum.
Okay, what is in the belly bag is a packet of, and it's really
it's like you're going to have to get the forceps out.
is a packet of Monte Carlos.
And why is there a packet of Monte Carlos?
There's a packet of Monte Carlos because Cherry, who's the main character in the book, loves the Monte Carlo biscuits. She had them with her dad with a cup of tea, and then she always remembers a conversation she had with her dad when he talks about the Monte Carlo fallacy, and she got confused because she thought they were talking about the biscuits. And so it just became a sort of, it's a lovely memory for her.
They are an Arnott's biscuit. Do you ever worry in your books, and again, it's sort of the same question as do you cast as you're going along? Do you worry that the Monte Carlo is too Australian and international readers will not get it?
No, because we read books set in the US and everywhere else all the time. So we get to know other product names or other, I don't know. So in the beginning, when I first started writing, my American editors would often ask me to change things and say, we don't understand that. But I was always push back a bit and say, well, if it makes sense in context, then let's leave it in. So if we're talking about a kookaburra, then it's pretty clear that we're talking about a bird. There's other things where I understand I don't want to pull the reader out of the story where they're confused. So I do let them change. I wish I didn't, but I understand why. Changing the boot of the car to the trunk of the car.
Yeah.
Because it would be too hard for them to think, what's going on?
It's a shoe?
Yeah, exactly.
Your books have been translated into 40 languages? That is unbelievable. What is the most niche one that you can remember?
I don't know. I can't think.
Estonian?
Yeah, probably. Yes. I think that might be right.
Back to the Monte Carlo. They feature, of course, in the Arnott's cream favourites.
Yes.
In this selection we have the orange slice, the shortbread cream, the Kingston, which is a new edition, I believe. I don't believe that was originally in there.
Yeah, I seem to remember the Kingston coming out
in
as
the 80s.
A fancy new biscuit.
New biscuit.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Monte Carlo, of course, Sherry's favourite, and the Delta Cream. I'm going to open them up. And you, Liane Moriarty, are going to rank them from top tier, like your brother, down to last.
Okay.
And I'm very interested in where you put them.
Where would I go? But sometimes it depends on your mood on the day.
Yeah, and the beverage. Yeah.
So we'll say a cup of tea.
Yes, a cup of tea.
And it's right now. So so I would go with the Monte Carlo first, number one. And then...
Same as cherry.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
And then I would go with the shortbread.
That's my favourite.
Because, some days I would put the shortbread first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interchangeable.
Yeah. And then the Kingston, because I do remember my first bite of a Kingston
So
thinking
do
it
I.
was pretty amazing.
It feels like there's some coconut involved.
Yeah,
which is
something,
one of my
some
favourite
special
flavours.
flavour, yeah. And then...
These two are dogs.
They're no good, yeah.
The Delta cream and the orange slice. Which is the worst?
Probably the orange slice.
I agree. Last. Second last. I agree with that. The Monte Carlo was always saved for special though. And we had ours in a brown cookie jar with a really bulbous,
Did you?
I can remember it very, very clearly. Liane Moriarty, thank you so much for coming in and being on the Chrissiecast.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been so much fun.
It's been so much fun. Her fab new release, Here One Moment, is available at all good bookstores. Who does the audiobook, by the way?
Oh, Caroline Lee, is, but this time I don't know the name of the other performer, but apparently they've done an amazing job. But people love Caroline Lee.
And people love an audiobook when you're out walking, the whole, what did I call it? Mental laxative. And you can get it online, of course. I am going to get you to sign. I've got 2 copies. I was lucky. I've brought one in and I'm going to get you to sign it if I could, Liane.
I would love to sign it with your beautiful pen.
Yes. And I'm going to give it away to you. Follow me on the Chrissiecast on Insta and I will package it up and send it to you. Until next time, Chrissiecasters, thank you so much, Liane.
My pleasure, Chrissie.